Greetings, everybody. It's Monday, May 5th, and this is your Chapo for today. On today's episode, Felix and I are joined by the host of the Majority Report, Sam Seder. Welcome back to the show, Sam.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's great to be here. It's great to have you on the show. I'd like to begin today just by just stating this, just to open the show. Like, in recent episodes, I've expressed, some confusion, some dismay, and some criticism at our president over his tariffs policy and just sort of my lack of an understanding of what he's trying to do with imposing these tariffs, where this is all going, and just sort of I've expressed doubts about whether he really has the best interests of American workers at heart. And I think in fairness, I should begin today's show by acknowledging that finally President Trump is beginning to speak to issues that affect Americans like me. And I'm speaking, of course, about his recently stated policy to enact tariffs on foreign movies and make more and better movies here in America. So I'd like to begin today with this post from Donald Trump, who states, "The movie industry in America is dying a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many other areas within the USA." Hollywood and many other areas within the USA are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again. So I think I'm finally beginning to get what he's doing with this, and I have to say I support it. I think foreign movies are a national security threat to America, and we need better and more movies in America.
Look, if he provides an exemption for, if we hear English voices, it's just the reading is too difficult. That's the problem with all those foreign movies. They come in and you go to a movie to watch, not to read. If I wanted to read, I'd read a book. So that's one of the things that I'm glad that I hope he's addressing with that. But you know where the idea came from, right?
Jon Voight
and his manager had a huddle in Mar-a-Lago, and that's where it is. But it's unclear to me whether it's like the tariffs on foreign movies or movies that are made outside of the country that are American. That's unclear to me.
I mean, I guess he saw Amelia Perez and he was like, this is too good. We can't compete.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.
It's the same way the Japanese make their cars. The French made Amelia Perez.
They did the bowling ball test on Amelia Perez and they couldn't release it. Very unfair.
They did the no dry eyes test. That's what happened when you see that movie. I don't like. What would this mean to make these movies? Like if they made like a movie like The Raid or something, like in one of those countries where they still do action scenes and it's not all guys blasting lasers at each other like a lot of our movies now. So I guess we have the opposite problem. Everyone is making fucking shadier John Wick now. So I don't know what has to happen. But if they make The Raid, is it like the Commerce Department just pays for Chris Pratt to make like The Raid but American?
Well, they're not talking about subsidies. It would just mean that like if you pay $12 to see a movie, it would cost you $24, I guess. Right? I mean, I don't understand how they would apply this. Customs officials at the theater.
Do you have anything to declare before seeing this Jean-Luc Godard film?
Exactly. And what if I guess they'd start to have to we're going to shoot Atlanta for Paris or something. Like if it takes place in a foreign country, we'd have to just sort of mock up. Or maybe we have we just designate one U.S. city to be all of potential foreign cities. I guess we just throw it over, or everything gets shot at Epcot Center.
Well, Sam, I'm glad you brought this up because I've been on this issue ever since I was 11, 12, 13, and I saw the film Rumble in the Bronx. Jackie Chan, very dishonest, very unfair. That movie was shot in Vancouver, not the Bronx. I'm tired of wily operators like Mr. Chan lying to the American people about where their movie takes place. You can see the Pacific Ocean in half of the shots in that movie.
Somebody on the script supervisor, I think, probably deserves to be fired in that one. But I'll tell you something. I did a show called Beat Cops with John Benjamin. We shot it. It was low budget for Studios USA. This is like in the last century. And we remade it for Fox. And they came to me and they're like, we want to shoot it in Toronto. I'm like, it's literally about two cops on the streets of New York. How could you shoot it in Toronto? And then 9/11 happened and I was like, let's go. I was like, let's go. We shot it in Toronto. And if you shoot down enough and just shoot towards the sidewalk.
Very tight angles of the sidewalks.
Very tight angles of the sidewalks.
Think how hard it would be to do 9/11 in Toronto.
That would be, it would be.
A lot of medium-rise buildings and then that one like needle thing.
You just have to keep the actors short and the camera low and just everything you shoot up like that.
I said one more comment here from Trump about the movie tariffs. He was asked in the Oval Office today by a reporter, what about the movie tariffs? And Trump's response was, other nations have been stealing the movies. The movie making capability is from the U.S. I've done some very strong research over the past week, and we're making very few movies now.
But like, okay, if we did this, and like, obviously it would be like all the other tariffs where like the other countries do them back. If China did it, that's just like the end, right? Like no more. There isn't going to be like 1 hour long drama on Netflix for every American family like there is now. Because that is the model now, is that like you can make money in America and like traditional Americans, but really like most of the big budget movies they make the majority of their money in China, right?
Yeah. And let's be clear, if it was more expensive, if all these movies that go to not just Canada, but they'll go to Eastern Europe,
like Hungary, Budapest, a lot of movies.
Yeah, exactly.
There now.
Hungary, I think there's a lot of production now. I mean, it always sort of moves around as to where they're getting the best incentives at any given point. If those were not available, I suspect what Hollywood do is just make less movies, and basically just make, I don't know, big blockbusters and try and make their money that way. I mean, the reason why things have contracted, why it's difficult for Jon Voight, there's two reasons. One is no one wants to see him in a movie anymore. That's just, nobody wants to see him. And the other is because they spent so much money on streaming that they wasted so much money, like literally billions of dollars on all of their sort of like streaming strategies that just blew up. And they don't want to make anything right now because they got to try and get their books back to some type of like baseline. And so that's what's, I think, the primary thing going on. Like, movies are one of our biggest exports in this country.
Yeah,
entertainment is our biggest exports. Like,
and we've been exporting it to the world. And what has the world been doing? They've been stealing the movies from us. They've been stealing our movie-making capabilities from our movies, and it has to stop. They've been ripping us off for too long, and I stand with Trump 100% on this issue.
Try go to a rental house to get a film camera or like one of those like Reds or whatever. It's impossible. They're all in other countries. Stolen.
Well, there's another new Trump policy today that I think is like when he said, I've been doing a great amount of research, doing some very strong research over the past week. And I think part of that research was just watching movies, which I'm convinced has led him to his next policy announcement that he wants to reopen Alcatraz and run it as a prison and not a museum, because it's a very strong symbol of law and order. And in his comments on it, I think he clearly watched like Escape from Alcatraz or The Rock or Point Blank or, and he was just like, no one's ever escaped from Alcatraz. He claims that one person, they found their clothes eaten by sharks. Again, it's a shark obsession, but reopening Alcatraz.
Well, I heard that, I think it was somebody like on Blue Sky said it was on Saturday night in West Palm Beach. Like it was on West Palm Beach television. And it's exactly, I think just seeing like a young Clint Eastwood and getting and reminiscing for that time, of course, because that's, I think the shark thing I don't know if it said a shark in that movie, but
That's not in Escape from Alcatraz.
Didn't they find
they find their clothes at the end of the movie?
Right.
They find the raft that they use, but it's not. There's no sharks involved in it. I think he's mistaken in that regard.
Well, I mean, look, we don't know. There was no indication. There was no indication in the movie that it wasn't a shark.
I don't know. I guess I'm curious because he says it like, this. He wants to go back to like Alcatraz housing the worst of the worst. As he calls it, the dregs of society that bring only pain and misery. But at the height of Alcatraz, when it was being run as a prison, its prison population was only about 200 or 300 prisoners. So like, I mean, there are like many other prisons in California that are like mega prisons. And I guess like I'm wondering about like what the efficacy of turning a museum back into a fully functional prison again would, or maybe they should just. Like
dude,
if you can't get off the island, just like
you don't get it.
Yeah.
No, you don't get it. This is the place where you put the guy from the Silence of the Lambs.
All the asylum seekers, yeah.
Exactly. The
late great Hannibal Lecter, and also the late great Al Capone, another one of his favorites. He died on Alcatraz.
That's what you need a place to keep these people away from the children and the little precious girls. That's what he needs to do. Who knows? The guy's just living in he knows that there is absolutely no price to be paid and only price to be gained by throwing out any of this stuff. This is like, we're going to invade Greenland. I mean, it's the same thing. It really is like, and it's just one more thing that he can.
Well, see, I think Greenland would be a better option for America's worst prisoners. Has anyone ever escaped from Greenland? I mean, there's not much there. What are they going to do? Swim to Iceland or something? No,
just by water.
Yep. It's like one giant Alcatraz. Just send all our dangerous criminals to Greenland.
Actually, that is actually sort of brilliant. It's sort of surprising they haven't combined those two things. Or you could maybe like somehow, bit by bit, replicate, like pull apart Alcatraz and just replicate it in Greenland.
Yeah, just reconstructed brick by brick in the middle of
That's
Greenland.
like how they sent us the, what do you call it, Statue of Liberty. We just do the same thing, but with Alcatraz in Greenland.
I love it. So yeah, like it's just like two quick stories about what our president is up to or what's on his mind this week. But Sam, since we're having you on this week, I do want to talk about, and this is connected to our president and like the way he communicates, like his ideas, his vision for America. I'm thinking about this in conjunction with your recent encounters and debates with some of our president's supporters, or Twitch streamers. And by the way, will you condemn Hassan Piker on our show?
Yeah, of course, I condemn everyone.
But
I condemn all three of you, all of you.
Thank you. But like the Jubilee video you did, like I was thinking about that, and we're having you on. And I was thinking about this in conjunction with an idea Felix expressed recently, or an idea like a germ of an idea we've been developing on the show, which is like a new act. Yeah, Felix, take it away.
Yeah. So this started out as like a way to deal with the insane population, which is, it's like what, like 1 out of every 4 Americans now is just like, yeah, I'm crazy. Ah, where's your kid's recital? I'm coming with a gun and a spear. And you got to deal with those people, and that may be a different department now. But we just thought, like, okay, what don't we have anymore? We don't have insane asylums, but those aren't very nice places. We saw what they did to Jack Nicholson in there. Let's not do that anymore. And we can, in fact, create more jobs this way, where we have this giant bureaucracy, like 100,000 people at least, and they just man the phone lines. Or if you're really crazy, you could come in and you tell them your crazy thing. You're like, the entire cast of the TV show SWAT is trafficking me. And someone in a suit and tie is like, that sounds awful. We're going to open a case file. Now, though, that was when we thought, the 1 in 4 Americans that are crazy are the biggest threat. It's really the, God, what would it be? Like 6 or 7 out of 10 Americans that we would put in our new category of the stupids. We used to think, oh, this is just Thomas Crooks type people who are like, I'm going to kill the president. Wait, who's the president? But this is like most people. And I've since I'm a professor at the LA Fitness College of Stupid Studies at NYU. I take my field very seriously. a lot of people criticize me and say, well, you're not very smart. You're, in fact, the dumbest member of your family and your show. And to that I say, I think I'm like Napoleon or Julius Caesar, where they were like minor nobility. I'm like that for intelligence. Where I come from a one-horse type of family, and I don't have the horse of intelligence. But I have enough of it. I'm still a noble, which puts me above the stupids. And I've also spent a lot of time with stupids. When a true smart is around the stupids, like I've seen with one Matt Chrisman, when we were in D.C. for inauguration, he saw a guy in a cowboy hat and a Trump shirt and was like, fuck you! But all my experiences with the stupids, my attitude, I calm things down. I talk to him, and it's just I've spent more time around them. So we think this department has to be now bigger than the military. 10 million people, and it's just whatever stupid problem where they're like, I think I'm going to kill my wife because I'm in love with ChatGPT. Okay, let's give you something to work on. We have a children's placemat, and if you solve it, you get a prize. And it's part of a whole suite of policies I have when my military coup takes over. The giant apartment complex you can do heroin in if you like that. Just all types of stuff for everyone to solve all the problems. But you are, if I'm like the who's a beloved, I'm the Giannis Varoufakis of stupid studies. You would be, Sam, you are like John Maynard Keynes. You're a titan of the field.
I've put the time in. I would say there was a lot of people who were you've got stupid people, but then you've also, I think the thing that really is the intersection of stupidity and total self-assuredness.
Yeah.
That is really the sort of like, that's the sweet spot for what we have, I think, in this country in a way that maybe has never been replicated in any society ever. Like that intersection, when those two things intersect, it can be impressive. I mean, the thing that in that Jubilee that I was really most impressed by was how absolutely convinced some of these people were about how right they were, and knowing that that's impossible. That they,
well, Sam, like the impression I got was like it's just like these are mostly like, you know, young people, young adults who have made it into like, you know, their early 20s or whatever, and have absolutely no idea how anything works or what anything is, but have like created in their heads explanations for all of it that they are totally convinced are true.
Well, that's the thing, is that like I've spent the last 20 years just reading a lot, but prior to that, like if you had asked me how, you know, Social Security works, I just been like, I have no fucking idea. And that's it. Like, okay, I rest my case. I have no idea. And that's it.
That is what makes us stupid. You know, there are dopes, there are dullards, there are fools. And those are just people who are wandering from life, getting their head caught in beehives. Both feet are in a bucket. All types of buffoonish activities that have existed since civilization itself. What makes us stupid is it is a post-industrialization phenomenon. They look at the world around them and they go, I don't know how this works. Wait, yes, I do. This is how you tell the difference. A fool, if he isn't already walking around like Winnie the Pooh with a t-shirt barely covering his genitals. You know, because someone stole all his pants. He forgot you can lock doors. And you're like, how's it going? Just trying to ignore the fact that you saw the tip of his penis poking through his shirt. He'll go, it's not the best time right now, as you maybe can tell. If you ask a stupid, you know, and the stupid, God knows what they have gotten into nowadays. I came to the parent teachers conference with a fucking our piece of artillery, and I don't even have a kid. There's a federal case against me. How's it going? I'm going through a really personal time right now.
I mean, like, and it's also that like today's modern stupids have armed themselves with like certain words or phrases that like sound smart. And like, Sam, you bring up Social Security, and the one that I hear all the time is that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. And like,
yes.
It's like, what are they trying to communicate with that? Or like, what are they trying? It's a Ponzi scheme that pays out without fail for the last like 70 or 80 years. Like, is that how Ponzi schemes work?
It's the longest running Ponzi scheme in the history of the world. And it runs internally. Incidentally, this is Musk. I mean, this is like Elon Musk said this on Rogan's show. I mean, this is,
and he's the smartest man in the world, so you can just like repeat it.
He's the smartest man in the world.
I love that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme because you just like apply that to anything where it's like, well, if you don't keep putting money in it, it's going to run out eventually, which is like, ExxonMobil's the fucking Ponzi scheme. If they just stop producing revenue, they're going to have to close their doors someday.
The U.S. government is, and this is going to be shocking to people, but there's no money after September as of right now. It's the budget is zero. In fact, the only thing that remains after September is Social Security. That's the only thing actually that continues to exist. But unless they vote for a new budget, there is no government funding. The whole Ponzi scheme is, I don't know. I think so much of this, honestly, like I used to listen to a lot of Rush Limbaugh back in the day when I was a young person, and so much of his show was about telling people who would call in, do not question yourself. Like you should have no doubt. That's it. And never question yourself. And I think that has like metastasized into like, we get Donald Trump, right? Like, I mean, he is the perfect example of this. He just says anything and never looks back, and it has worked. He's incredibly successful. like he's this is in his second term of being president, and he's a fucking moron. He just never acknowledges that he has no idea what he's talking about. And he's trained like all of these people that all you need to do is just never give in. You are right. Pick a thing and that's it. Just go for it. And I mean, it worked for him.
That is why, well, I think it goes back before that even. And I think one of the most evil movies of all time, and probably when this is all said and done, will be responsible for the deaths of millions. The movie Rudy. It taught people, like, it doesn't matter how much you suck. Just keep doing it, and then people will respect you for doing it. And there are so many people who thought, the last time I tried to get a passport, they had to shoot me because I went so nuts because I didn't know what was going on. But I should be a senator. I should know. I need to adjudicate trade policy. It taught so many people to believe in themselves who really shouldn't.
But like, this is where I think you're. But I think this is where the Federal Department of Stupids, or I would prefer the title Department of Dum-Dums, I think would be like a humane solution to this, because like, Felix, you kind of developed this idea in conjunction with the fact that like RFK Jr. is now having to share all of this shit with everyone, and we have to think about it and be just like he's imposing all these stupid beliefs on everyone else. Whereas like, if there were like, a federal department staffed by 10 million people that could just act as a busy box for people who believe in chemtrails or like the flat earth, and to just sort of like placate the concerns, organize trips to the ice wall in Antarctica. It's like, you just show them it. Show them it's real. Yeah.
Well, that's part of the Department of Stupids. And like, we're going to start out like all programs it is unfortunately going to have to be means tested to justify its existence, where we will deal with the probably 1% most stupid Americans. But part of the stupids thing, and part of why going to the ice wall is so good, the point of the department is to keep the stupids from touching everything. And it sounds harsh, but really it's like, it's either we isolate them or they isolate us in a world that's all stupid, where you go to the airport and you hear RFK making pronouncements. Part of the program would be telling people which shows are fiction and which shows are real. And Game of Thrones, real. It's history. You can go to the ice. This is the wall. This is where Jon Snow. This is where he ate that girl's pussy in the cave. Want to see it? You don't have to vote. Jon Snow was real. You can meet him.
But it's essentially to create a kind of like hermetically sealed universe where like these people can feel heard and engaged with and placated. But yeah, like as Sam, as you described, sort of like a playground for adults.
Yeah, I think you should really contemplate the idea of maybe paving the Grand Canyon and just letting people live down there, and that's it. Like it's already dug out in such a way that like you don't have to build any walls. You give one passage down to the bottom, pave it all, and just let things happen there. That's it. You don't need to do. And then you could also sell tickets to watch what's happening down there. That's it. You just like
well, they already have like little telescopes and lookout points at the at the top.
I mean, I feel like we're 6 months out from that whole thing being privatized anyway. We could actually put it to like a more societal good.
Well, Sam, I already feel like this is the first great debate in the field. You're what I would call a stupid's principalist, where I'm a reformist. I think one of the biggest things about stupid studies is it's the opposite of eugenics. I think anyone, any place, any circumstance of birth, for any reason, can become a stupid, and it afflicts people, all sorts of people, and all sorts of circumstances of birth, right? And I think a lot of normals, and even better than normals, are born to two stupid parents who had two stupid parents themselves. So you can't put them in the Grand Canyon, because what about their kids?
So you think it's? But wait, is it genetic or not genetic?
We currently think that there is a stupid spirit world that is infecting ours. I don't know. Have you ever seen Berserk? Kind of like that. Some pretty bad stuff is going to happen, but we're not putting them in the canyon.
And where is the portal? See, this is the thing. You don't know. You haven't even found the portal yet. So your whole theory is bunk.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, but I don't know. I would rather have like 10 stupids go free than for a normal to be imprisoned in stupid.
Couldn't we do something where we fill the Grand Canyon with water and whoever floats up gets to leave?
Well, I mean, the stupids would have too many Venom energy drinks in their pockets to float. So there might be something to this.
Well, this is a good segue into what will be the main course for today's episode, because we're talking about how stupids who believe that they should become U.S. senators. Well, shit, one has already become a U.S. senator, and it's John Fetterman. And like, folks, like the New York Magazine profile of him, titled by Ben Terrace, titled "All by Himself." Basically, like it dropped right after we recorded on Thursday. And like I have been salivating to do this a reading series on the show, because like Felix, I think you and Nathan Robinson need to take a massive victory lap. You've been correct on this guy from the jump. And also, like, it was so gratifying to read this piece and realize that every joke you've made about John Fetterman was, if anything, underselling it.
Yeah, like I thought the concept of a guy who like has a mental, physical reaction to his kid having a birthday where he just has to leave or otherwise become the center of attention. It's so ridiculous. Like, who would do that? Obviously, we are, no one could sue you over that because it's so silly. No, that's actually what happens. That is literally what happens. And he does something more ridiculous than you could ever imagine, more insane and annoying. I give a little background. I recorded the episode that came out earlier this morning about the Dana Nessel indictments. If I had not recorded that like back to back right after the episode we recorded Thursday, we would have done an emergency podcast about this article. But I'm glad we're doing it now because the reactions have been so funny. Is there anyone else you can think of where it's like the point of the article is basically like, you are dangerously stupid and childish. You're so stupid and childish, you're going to kill your family. And so people are speaking out, and that there are no denials. Like, the only defenses of you and the defenses of him have been from people who write for those like crazy Zionist magazines where they're like, oh, okay, so I guess this was all fine until he supported Israel, right?
I don't know. I read that thing as like he's really suffering from that stroke. I mean, it reads to me like someone has had some type of like very traumatic brain issue that's gone on. I mean, severe brain issue. And what's shocking to me is that like this has clearly been going on in an extreme fashion for well over a year, maybe more. And now is the first time we're hearing about it.
Yeah, but it's like at the same time, the reason that I was always skeptical on this guy was he was always really shitty on Israel. I mean, he did like chase a fucking like black jogger around with a fucking shotgun. And I don't know. It's like, I'm not a doctor at the end of the day. And I'm sure, like, absolutely, he's probably, if he's like scaring his family this much, yeah, he's probably absolutely changed.
Oh my God. It sounds like he's completely off. I mean, like, it's sort of like regarding Henry, except for the guy just gets, more worse of himself. Like it just sort of like amplifies his worst instincts.
Yeah. I mean, the subject, like the guy who made this happen basically is a show favorite, Adam Gentleson. And we've talked about Gentleson before, and I do think this article is him trying to cover his ass. Absolutely.
I agree. I agree. And I should say, like, Gentleson's a guy like I had on to talk about the filibuster when his book came out. And, he had worked for Harry Reid. And as far as Democrats go, particularly ones with sort of like Harry Reid's background, Harry Reid was pretty good. And Gentleson seems to have like, this definitely feels like a cover your ass, because Gentleson just went so far down the road and was like, realized at one point, like, oh no, he's really crazy.
Right.
And it didn't occur to him, like, halfway down that road, like, I should really look into this.
Sam, it's like, it's insane because like Gentleson he was a Warren supporter. In fact, my first run-in with Gentleson was him like, he was scolding me. He was like, you quote tweeted a 25-year-old, you're a piece of shit. He was, one of those guys. And, since then he's become like a popularist. What makes this article so funny and what I think happened is he's obviously taken this huge right-wing shift where he's like retweeting IDF press releases and shit. And so he's trying to thread this needle of like, look, this guy, I'm speaking out now because I think he's going to like do something terrible. And I don't want to say I didn't warn you. I don't want to make it seem like I hid the truth, but also he nailed it on immigration in Gaza. It's so fucking weird. And it's like, he definitely would not be doing this if he didn't think there was like a significant danger of something like that happening. But like Fetterman said that Gentleton's like, he's a piece of shit. He lied, etc. And it's like, yeah, he's probably a bad guy. And he did it because him and Ben Terrace are friends, and they are friends. But what Ben Terrace is a real reporter who has like an actual book out that isn't just scrawlings and crayons and like pictures of senators' dogs. No actual guy like that is going to go, hey, Adam, you're my friend. I love you. So just make up whatever shit happened to you in the past 2 years, and I'll print all of it.
No.
What works like that? Nothing.
No, I don't. There's absolutely no reason to doubt any of this whatsoever. I mean, it seems like it's so well sourced. What this is, though, is Gentleson making an assessment as to when, like, there's no doubt the reporter knew about this. If they're friends, he's known about it for over a year. And it's just a question of when Gentleson's willing to say, okay, let's do it. That's it. That's how this works. And I think Gentleson, I think, feels it's a cover your ass, not just about Fetterman, but about his own behavior. Like, I suspect this is Gentleson saying like, okay, I'm having trouble. I whatever it is, professionally or whatnot, there needs to be a reformation project, because now I'm just showing like, this is about, I will be able to step away from some of the more extreme versions of which I presented this stuff out there and create some type of flexibility. and all that's going to come out of this is that this is a guy who is incredibly loyal. You can be Diane Feinstein level of vegetative, and he's still going to be saying you're on top of everything, and he's only going to come out, way past the sell-by date to do this. And so I think that's what's going on here. I mean, this is something that we should have heard about a year ago, without a doubt. Like the car accident.
Yeah.
The car accident.
That was insane.
You can't come out today and say, I'm doing this to protect him from himself when he is driving
already nearly
off the
killed
road.
his wife and another person.
Exactly.
He fractured like a permanent life-changing injury. Like a couple more inches, he fucking paralyzes her or kills her. And he's like,
because he's reading at 70 miles an hour? I mean, are you kidding me? That's not... Someone's got a mental disability at that moment.
What did Fetterman even say about that after almost killing his wife, permanently altering how she moves, her pain reaction, everything, how she lays down when she goes to bed? Oh, sometimes I drive too fast. What? Like what? What? You almost killed her, you fucking oaf!
Now, before we dive into this article, I do want to mention Gentleson because he is sort of the star of this piece, and we mentioned this piece as sort of like an ass covering effort on his part. So I was encouraged to see Gentleson show up in another article today in the Bulwark titled "They Can't Stand Trump, but Fought Against Biden and Harris Over Gaza," and this is sort of a well, what do they think about their not supporting Harris now? Because Israel has just basically announced that they fully intend to starve and annex all of Gaza. I mean, there's just no more denying it. They're just outright saying that we're going to settle and conquer what's left of Gaza and starve the people or kill them who are still left there. So Gentleson shows up in this piece, like I said, which I thought was pretty telling about sort of trying to produce a narrative that that sets the tone going forward. And I'm just going to read it from here real quickly. It says, quote, "We have zero regrets about everything we did throughout 2024. I want that noted, underlined, bolded, as clear as possible," said Hudafia Ahmed, a spokesperson for the Abandon Harris movement. "Our loyalty is to our morals, principles, and our values. Not everyone has been won over by this worldview. Indeed, elsewhere in the party, frustration has been on a slow simmer over the absence of contrition or introspection from the pro-Palestinian groups. For them, the idea that those activists could look at the current situation in Gaza and feel vindicated about their election season decisions doesn't justify their logic. It lacks morality." Quote, "People are trying to justify their bad choices. I don't think it's a defensible position to say there's no difference. It's absurd to think that Harris would not be approaching this issue differently than Trump. We're talking about, paving Gaza. It's just not a credible position to say there's no difference," said Adam Gentleson, former chief of staff to Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Activists need to think harder about what outcome they're trying to produce. And I just the line that they're annoyed at the absence of contrition or introspection from pro-Palestinian groups. How about their contrition or introspection? Why is it their fault and not the very powerful people who are running for president and the choices and decisions that they've made? Does that require any introspection on the part of Adam Gentleson? When he says activists need to really consider what outcomes they're trying to produce. What outcome are you trying to produce working for a guy who said of Palestinians, quote, "kill them all"?
He said they're like spoiled milk. By the way, if it is indefensible to pretend they're the same, explain to me how these outcomes are different.
I mean,
how are they different?
I am of the mind that Harris would have been better. And when I look at voting, for me personally, and I certainly sort of espouse this, is that it is not an act that you do to reflect your morals, that it's completely, it's the utility, it's a tool. But to say that non-professionals have to make this assessment, she gave zero indication, not even the slightest clue, unless you read deep into the Washington Post on a specific day and knew that Phil Gordon, who had been the person who was responsible for pushing Obama to the nuke deal, was coming out in some forums, waffling a little bit. There was zero indication that she was going to do anything different than Donald Trump. And so, the idea that they would not own this, there was so many opportunities for them to do even the smallest thing. Allow that lawmaker from Georgia, the Palestinian American lawmaker from Georgia, to speak at the convention, would have just at least gone far enough to make one tiny indication
to give something, as people, it's just something to hang their hat on,
anything. And they gave nothing. And they did this willfully. They did this consciously. They were told over and over again not to do it. So it's like, you have an option. Do you put each activist, as they're saying, on the position of having to endorse and work and somehow figure out how they're going to have all this enthusiasm for someone who has provided zero indication that they would be different than Trump? Zero indication. She provided zero. Now, I happen to think that it would have been different because I think, Trump is a piece of shit and I know this stuff, but I have more sophistication about this stuff than the average person. It's literally my living to do so. They needed to take a responsibility for their abject failure. They fucked up. Even as just an electoral matter, they fucked up and they don't want to take responsibility for it. They're the professionals. They're the one making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're the ones who had a budget of $1 billion. They fucked up. And it's on them. Their job is to at least provide something for people who wanted to work for Harris, who wanted to beat Donald Trump. And they provided nothing. They provided nothing. And that, that's the bottom line. And it's all just a CYA. And Gentleson is just out there now. That's like, has the same function of like doing a short film that you hope wins at Sundance. This is all like, I'm putting it on my dad's credit card. In his case, maybe literally. And I'm just doing a calling card. This is all like, this is a dude, listen, it's very difficult right now for Democratic operatives to get a job. There's just nothing happening in DC. Everybody's just like completely flummoxed. And so it's no coincidence that this op-ed comes out like this op-ed comes out when this story comes out. This is just a fucking PR push for a fucking job. It's twisted.
And the Fetterman article, that's the cover letter. That's like, okay, here are my terms of working for you. I will cover up any and all of your obvious mental decline up until the point where you start to maybe kill your family and it would reflect on me. But anything before that, I will lie, I will obfuscate, I will say that you're the future of the party, even though that I saw you take off all your clothes and run through a plate glass window when you were asked to tie your shoes by a doctor. Those are my conditions. Here is some of my expertise where I'm going to blame these people for the fact that Harris and Biden had the exact same policy on Israel. Yeah, I don't know why he's doing this. He's a member of the Bruce Gentleson Bank of the Bruce Gentleson Trust and Bank. So I wish him good luck. I would hate to just be refreshing Venmo all the time like that. But we'll see.
And again, I want to dive into this piece, but before it's just like there was a little bit of kismet in another news story that came out this week. Sam, did you follow this story about the Democratic Congresswoman in Colorado who tried to kill herself twice, and we just learned about it now?
No.
Okay, yeah. Listen to this. This is Caraveo twice appeared to attempt suicide in situations witnessed by staffers. The first time was in February 2024 when she sent concerning messages to aides who rushed to her Thornton home and found that she had taken 19 sleeping pills and was drinking alcohol, leading to an emergency response and hospitalization. Then in April 2024, Caraveo showed up to an event at her congressional office in North Glen after ingesting a large quantity of powerful sedative and had to be rushed to the hospital. Aides called 911 and led police to firefighters to the Congresswoman. She tried to kill herself in front of her staffers by taking pills and alcohol last year, and we're finding out about this now 6 months after she narrowly lost her election.
Is she on Hinge? I think I found a new GF.
Like between like this and Feinstein and Biden, it's like these people feel like these staffers all feel like they're working for like Michael Jackson. It's like, you have a responsibility to, resign en masse, to walk out, to leak stuff to the press. Like this can't be the idea that like you're going to protect your gravy train in this way. And like, how much gravy are we talking about? That's the thing. It's like, it's not Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson.
That is the funniest. I was talking with somebody about like the world of political staffers, and it is so they do that that Joe Blue thing of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna piss through my $9,000 suit.
You need a hand with that? No, Al. I want to spill booze all over my $6,300 suit. Come on.
But it's like, why don't you tell people that your boss is insane, that she makes you watch Crush videos, and yesterday she chewed her fake cyanide tooth because you wouldn't make copies, and you're like, buddy, where else do you think I'm going to make $40,000 entire dollars a year? Well, do you think going to Panera 3 times a week, people are just giving that away?
Well, like Sam, that's why the context of this is what makes like some of the reaction to this piece in New York Magazine so stunning to me. Like after the experience of going through Biden having to drop out of the race, that like there is still the reaction among like Democratic media and party figures that are just like, all these staffers are a disgrace for their lack of loyalty to their boss.
I think Gentleson honestly should be like, the idea that people aren't saying like, how is it that you've waited this long?
Yeah.
It isn't like a major question for him. Like at what point did you think that like, was it his waffling on the Pete Hegseth vote that you was the final straw? Like, the car accident wasn't enough? I don't know. That seems fucked up to me.
Well, let's dive into the piece. It begins like by when John Fetterman was released from Walter Reed Hospital in March 2023. Adam Gentleson, then his chief of staff, was proud of his boss for seeking help for what the senator's office and his doctor had said was a case of clinical depression. His 6 weeks of inpatient care had been the latest medical setback for the Pennsylvania Democrat, who had had a stroke mere months before being elected to the U.S. Senate in 2022, nearly derailing his campaign against Republican Mehmet Oz. But a year after his release from the hospital, Fetterman's behavior had so alarmed Gentleson that he resigned his position. In May 2024, he wrote an urgent letter to David Williamson, the medical director of the Traumatic Brain Injury and Neuropsychiatry Unit at Walter Reed, who had overseen Fetterman care at the hospital. I think John is on a bad trajectory, and I'm really worried about him, the email began. If things don't change, Gentleson continued, he was concerned Fetterman won't be with us for much longer. His 1,600-word email came with the subject line, concerns, and it contained a list of them, from the seemingly mundane, he eats fast food multiple times a day, to the scary, we do not know if he is taking his meds, and his behavior frequently suggests that he is not. We often see the kind of warning signs we discussed. Conspiratorial thinking, megalomania. For example, he claims to be the most knowledgeable source on Israel and Gaza around, but his sources are just what he reads in the news. He declines
most. Confused. Is he writing about himself, Gentleson, or about Fetterman?
Okay, I want to point something out here. He writes this email of genuine concern. Holy shit, this guy is on a bad trajectory. Adam Gentleson, cannot allow this. I will not cash your checks in addition to my father's allowance. It's beyond my moral compass to do this. To show how much I care, let me just do a word count of how long this email was. How did he know it was 1,600 words? Like this, he sounds like he told terrorists, "Look how long this email was. This is how much I cared." This is a guy who is always in cover letter mode.
He says he declines his most briefings and never reads memos. High highs and low lows, long, rambling, repetitive, and self-centered monologues, lying in ways that are painfully, awkwardly obvious to everyone in the room. And then, I'm going to jump ahead for a little bit here. It says, Gentleson is a longtime Washington operator. He's worked for a liberal think tank and written a book about the filibuster. He and I first met when he worked for Harry Reid, then the Democratic leader of the Senate, and later we became friends. Gentleson continues to believe broadly in the Fetterman project, that Democrats would benefit from punching left more often and that voters crave a heterodox candidate.
That where their wife is?
And that voters crave a heterodox candidate willing to stick a thumb in the eye of his own party. He says his disagreements with Fetterman are by and large not political, but rather an expression of genuine worry for his well-being. He told me he hadn't gone public with his concerns earlier because he hoped Fetterman could correct course. So he's saying that this guy is prone to fits of megalomaniacal ranting and doesn't know what he's talking about. But at the same time, I think he's the most articulate spokesman for the project that I hope to see enacted in the Democratic Party, which is to move it more right wing.
A megalomaniac clock is right twice a day.
I mean, is like, I guess like the solution for the remaining Democratic senators is like get a stroke, but then listen to your doctor afterwards. Because it's everything was going great until he didn't listen to the doctor, and that's when he starts almost doing Jonestown to his staffers.
Again, like the idea that he was waiting to see if there would be a course correction. Is the car accident not enough? I just don't understand like what has happened in the past couple of months that is more extreme than nearly killing everyone in a car accident. Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
Here's another paragraph. He says, members of his team told me that this was an early warning sign that something was off with their boss. In early February 2023, after Fetterman had indeed been sworn in, members of the Senate gathered at the Library of Congress for a caucus retreat. Fetterman, fresh off a hard-fought victory in the cycle's marquee race, should have been riding high. Only he wasn't. A staffer recalled him getting a text from a person at the retreat asking if their boss was okay. Fetterman was sitting at a table by himself, slowly sipping a Coke and refusing to talk with anybody. Later that day, another staffer heard an alarming report from a journalist. Fetterman had just walked obliviously into the road and was nearly struck by a car. There's another part in this article where it talks about how someone saw him walking around the halls of Congress and like walked into a crowd of people and nearly knocked them over, which makes his driving of his getting behind the wheel of a car all the more insane. Like, this guy can't even walk without crashing into people or nearly being hit by a car. And then he gets into a car and drives it recklessly over the speed limit and nearly kills two people and himself.
I have, everyone knows I have a very old grandmother, and it was like a whole thing, for when she would stop driving. And she kind of like, she fucked up a little. She didn't hurt anyone, but she was like, all right, fine, you're right. But she will turn 105 this year. She can still walk unsupervised, like for the most part. Like that's not a problem she has, careening into a crowd of people.
I thought you were going to say she's driving. That would have been impressive.
Well, I put her up against Fetterman. I think she gets to A to B much better than him.
She knows better than to tweet while she's driving 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, she's not going over her recent Bill Maher appearance in the car.
I mean, that was the detail, because I was aware of the car accident, but that was the detail that this article shed new light on, that he was on a red-eye flight back from Los Angeles after appearing on Real Time with Bill Maher when he crashed into a car going 70 or 80 miles an hour on the Beltway.
He was, it's like he was in the car and he was like, Bill Maher's right. Palestine is like when a hooker tries to take your watch. Oh, shit. There's another car here.
Felix, this sentence here, I think, is like literally could be a joke you made about him like a year ago on the show. Quote, he could barely string two sentences together, talking so quietly that everyone in the room had to strain to hear him. Fetterman then stood up and began walking around the office in tight loops, a move the two staffers described as doing figure eights.
This is the part that I love, because there's parts of this where Peter Welch from Vermont, like all these other senators that remember him being more normal at some juncture, are like coming in to check up on him, see what's up. And he's presumably behaving like a Roomba with water damage. And the staffers, everyone's like, oh, I guess this is just his day where he calibrates his motion detectors. Like, how do you just think, the people of Pennsylvania are very lucky after that?
Honestly, the figure eight stuff too is I agree. It's just people walking out of that office who witnessed that, they need to be held to account. Like, I'm sorry, there's 100 senators. That's it. And to think that we got to dig into the folks who are doing figure eights in their office. We're not going to be able to fill these 100 seats. Like, it just seems, it's like the Feinstein thing. Like, there's no semblance that there is a responsibility to the constituents in Pennsylvania, to the whole country. It just seems like, it just seems incredibly irresponsible to me, to people who are telling themselves they're in politics for public service reasons.
Yeah, is it public service or is it just service to the guy you work for?
I mean, go do this for someone in Hollywood. It'll be more fun.
Here's another detail from the story. Those first days in the hospital were rough. Fetterman was experiencing delusions. He thought that if he took a bed at the hospital, he would be arrested. He told doctors that he believed members of his family were wearing wires to secretly record him. In one chaotic moment, Fetterman grew convinced that a political rally being held in the hospital's lobby and that he needed to break out of his room to attend.
Do you think it's possible that his wife was recording him at times? I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. She's trying to like piece this together. Maybe she's talking to a therapist or she's talking to somebody. I mean, just because he's like what members of his family does he think is recording him?
It doesn't say, but it does mention his wife. It says here, but it wasn't just staffers who were upset. There was also Fetterman's wife, Giselle, who had become something of a political celebrity in her own right. She is a kind-hearted philanthropist, the proprietor of a free store in Braddock that gave away goods and clothing. A formerly undocumented immigrant from Brazil and a vocal progressive, in early November, just weeks after the attack, Giselle arrived at her husband's Senate office, and according to a staffer present, they got into a heated argument. They are bombing refugee camps. How can you support this? The staffer recalled her saying with tears in her eyes. That's all propaganda, Fetterman replied. Later, a visibly upset Giselle pulled the staffer aside, and she asked him if members of Fetterman's team were pushing him to take stances for political reasons. The staffer told her that the opposite was true. Many of them were as upset as she was. If you're pushing back on this, there's no hope, the staffer recalled her saying. This is horrible news.
Let me just say, the amazing thing is that his response, this is all propaganda. There's a huge portion of Zionists who have the exact same response. So it's like that is not consistent with the rest of the story. That is him actually acting as a bunch of people who presumably have not had strokes argue. I can assure you, I have talked to people like this who have said it's not true. None of that's real. It's all Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
and they believe that.
Yeah.
Well, because what else do you have to tell yourself to, what else can you tell yourself, really?
I mean, that almost seems like a I don't know, I'm not going to say quaint, but like a different era of atrocity when they were more on the Hollywood thing, which is sort of, they've been doing that for, as long as any of us have been alive to some extent. But now it seems like they're sort of done with that. And they're just saying,
right.
Yeah, it's all good.
Right, exactly.
All of what we're doing is good.
Yeah, you had to move into it's not happening to actually it should happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same province of Holocaust deniers, Armenian genocide deniers. It didn't happen, but it was awesome when it did.
Yeah. Let's see here. Here's the piece I mentioned earlier. In the final weeks of 2023, a Senate physician called the office, according to a staffer, to say that he had seen Fetterman acting bizarrely near the underground trolleys that shuttle people between the Capitol and nearby office buildings. He had witnessed Fetterman, seemingly unaware of his surroundings, walk directly into a group of people, nearly bowling them over. Giselle then texted that she had told her husband that his staff and doctor were worried about him, but that he had told her, that's not true, and I guess I'm not talking to you today, before hanging up. The doctor had also said he was fighting to get access of the Twitter account. She went on, please promise me that he'll never have access. One staffer told me there would be entire days when they couldn't let anyone outside the office be around him because he was in some sort of state and might say really fucked up shit to constituents. Sometimes he would just shut down, according to one former staffer. He was saying unhinged shit, according to one text, spending more time on social media. Stern wrote to the group that it seemed to him like Fetterman was spiraling and that his constant doom scrolling, I think he's essentially on all day now, would only make things worse. It's self-sabotage, Kat said. Him against the world is his comfortable place. Another staffer chimed in to say his boss had picked a fight in the Senate cloakroom when an attendant wouldn't let him bring a friend in. He said something to the effect of, you let all these imbeciles in here, but you won't let me bring in my friend.
I mean, okay, again, I think that's valid.
Well, I mean, wait till you see who the friend probably was. Yeah, no, I don't know. It makes me think about this whole like shorts and hoodie thing. I think this is just like, we've talked about like airport Americans. There is like a type of person who loves like just gumming up the work so they can yell at someone. I think that's sort of his personality before this.
I do get the sense that that this, whatever has taken place for him neurologically has like brought out the worst, the worst parts of him. It's like he's maybe all id now or something. Like it's just there's no filters, and all his worst tendencies are coming to the fore. And he doesn't have the ability to like regulate in any way. I mean, there's no political value to him. He could have maintained every single position on the Israel and that Palestinians deserved every bit of it. And he could have done it in a way that was not like, I feel like even hardcore Zionists were like, "Whoa, okay, maybe dial it back just a little bit. Like we're not supposed to be that frank, kill them all." I mean,
Yeah.
Who says that?
The other quote was, "Let's get back to killing."
Yeah, like the thing where he says that he hasn't met a single Arab who condemns Hamas, calls the Palestinians spoiled milk. I mean, even the most insane Zionists will say like, "Oh, actually, all of them hate Hamas and they're tyrants. We're liberating them from Hamas, and that you talk over real Arabs who hate them." But I guess he's sort of reading between the lines, and he clicked translate from Hebrew on all those tweets and said, "Okay, I know what you really think."
All right. Here's the last amazing detail from the story that I want to share, because like this is the culmination of everything Felix has ever joked about him. Moments like these are becoming increasingly difficult for staff to explain, and behind the scenes, things were worse. In March, Fetterman suddenly took an early morning trip to Hartford, Connecticut without telling his team why, leaving them at a loss for what to tell Giselle when she demanded to know why he was missing one of their kids' birthdays. Fetterman objected to this characterization, saying to me, "I took a weekend trip in March to visit the grave site of my friend from grad school who died in 1993, a trip my staff and family knew about."
A friend from grad school in 1993? I don't think you could use that as an excuse for anything. Like, I'm sorry. Grad school in 93?
Well, you want to get there before the 35th anniversary. That's why you do it on your kid's birthday.
No, but he has an allergy to his own children's birthdays.
Crash the whip like Fetterman. My wife wishes I was a better man. Son's birthday, I got a better plan. I'm on the E-way reading Reddit. Damn.
I will say that March in Hartford, you don't want to miss. It's the best time of the year to visit Hartford. It's just before the leaves get on the trees. There's nothing obscuring the absolute sort of like degradation of the city that has been going on for the past half a century.
Hartford is the jewel of Connecticut, truly.
It is. You don't want to miss that. I mean, I thought the Hegseth stuff too was pretty amazing, because this is good. Like, this is ongoing. This is not like they're looking back. The Hegseth thing where he basically said to them, like, "I don't want to vote on him. What if I just leave?"
I mean, like, do you think it's like a similar thought? Because I want to go back to the kid's birthday, because I do think it is so revealing. My read on the initial joke about like the kid's birthday stuff was that he could not stand anyone else being the locus of the household attention. But I do there might be some truth to that, but also like the way he just said, "What if I just leave?" Like, no one in the history of the Senate has ever thought of that. Do you think it's like there's some element where he knows he's deficient and he's like, this is going to be one of those days where I walk into people, better go away. I don't know. It's hard to get into his head for a lot of reasons.
I mean, I think he could have seen it he could have missed the birthday because he felt like he didn't want to embarrass the kids there. Or maybe he's afraid that his kid is recording him.
I always knew my kid would fold under questioning.
And I guess the family member who's not recording him apparently is his father, who apparently calls him after his Fox News appearances to tell him how proud he is of his son. So, I mean, like that could be another psychological factor informing his strange behavior.
There is so much father psychology going on in the Fetterman office between Gentleson, Fetterman himself.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Let me just this part about like right after that Hegseth thing. this was like when people were saying, are you going to switch your party and this and that? And apparently he was fighting with Giselle. He was crying while FaceTiming with staff. And
God.
He says they're trying to cancel him again. And the staffer says, but we don't know who they are in this. Like, the guy he's suffering. But again, it's like, it's like when he broke down after the Hegseth thing, that was much worse than the car accident at 70 miles an hour. I just still can't get over that part. Like, how much worse does it get than the guy basically risking the lives of everybody in the car and everybody on the highway? I just somebody's getting away with having no accountability for this, it seems to me.
Well, it's all out there now, and like I think he'll be doing some figure eights and like feeding ducks and like walking in, clipping into walls. Like again, like I mean, just the lack of being able to learn a lesson here. Like I mean, he should resign. Like this is crazy. Like you can't be a senator when like your brain is like this.
Yeah, and like I don't know. The figure eights is kind of like the most insane thing to me because, like, if I saw anyone do that, like, Will, if you did that in front of me,
send me to Shut Up and Eat Home.
I'd be like, we're ending the pot. I'm going to law school. It's not too late for me. Like, no lessons learned after Biden, after Feinstein, after any of it. I just as a side note, the people who like are casting Giselle as a bystander in this, I do have to point out that she did meet with the Netanyahus, and like I understand that like she probably is afraid and everything, but like I don't. It's just like at a certain point, someone has to fucking do something. I know you didn't ask for this, but like shit, I on the list of people I feel bad for, maybe number 30 million. Behind everyone, every fucking Palestinian, everyone in Syria, everyone in Lebanon and Yemen. And actually someone who could maybe put their foot down because none of these fucking staffers will. I get it. I get that like having a family complicates things, but like shit, like no one else is clearly going to do anything.
I'm more sympathetic with her because of the whole family thing. Like, if there's something that happened, if he does resign, you want to be able to maintain your family and get the guy some help. But like, I imagine right now, Chuck Schumer is asking his aides, like, is there a place I can go for 3 months so I don't have to deal with this? Like,
yeah.
Well, maybe I mean, Sam, I gotta go on a fact-finding mission somewhere because he's so cowardly about this stuff. And let's be clear, Feinstein, the reason why they didn't want to get rid of it. Supposedly, it was a 50-50 Senate. Fetterman, we can afford to have him not be there for a while. Like the guy is a danger. He's a danger to himself and to others.
But Sam, like to that point, like you think that like the antics of this mentally ill ogre are being like covered up, and like they're still covering for him because, like as Gentleson said, they essentially think he is useful to like rebranding the Democratic Party as being against immigration and like this kind of like poking their own base and like going to war with their own like progressive anti-war base. That they think that like he is still, despite his obvious like difficulties, shall we say, that he's still useful to them in that regard as like the Fox News Democrat.
I mean, I don't know. Like the guy who's doing figure eights believes in this. Maybe we should follow him down. Like it seems like a built-in. I gotta say, like my co-host Emma Vigeland, she was pretty excited about Fetterman back in the day, where I think people were enticed by his populist streak. But she's been saying for a long time, like, I really think like there's something mentally going wrong with him. Like a lot of this is coming out of that. I'm like, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. And of course, there was huge evidence of it. We just don't have access to it. I still can't get over the car thing. That's like, it's one thing. Okay, he's every day for 20 minutes, he does figure eights. It's the way that he calms himself. It's not hurting anybody. But when he tries to do this on a highway, it seems to me like that's when you got to step in and say, this is going to end in tragedy. And frankly, all of those people, had somebody died, all of those people in that office, in my mind, have a responsibility and some culpability if they have not gone out and said anything.
Absolutely. If they'd just seen him like slug a pint of scotch before getting behind the wheel of a car, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, we'll let you drive." Like,
wait, has anyone tried that? make him a little normal again.
Do the Cary Grant North by Northwest thing.
Yeah,
I had a buddy once back in my comedy days. We were living in a sort of like it wasn't quite a halfway house, but it was sort of like of that ilk. And I was sitting in my my one room apartment, and he would jog to work like 15 miles outside of downtown Cambridge, out to his job at night. And he came in one day and he's like, I figured out how to get rid of my shin splints. I drink a half a bottle of wine before I start running. And that's like, maybe it would help Fetterman just a little bit. Take the edge off just a little bit.
On that line about, is he literally a useful idiot for like some of these centrist people who aspire to make the Democratic Party more right? Did you guys see Matt Iglesias after this article came out doing a long thread saying that perhaps Fetterman is still the future that the party needs because of the popularity of whatever his immigration policies and stuff? After going to the bat for Biden, like, I'm sorry, all your heroes are brain dead.
Is this like the people who are like, well, Chris Benoit was an awesome wrestler?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, Iglesias did he did the thing when after Biden dropped out where he was just like, well, when they escorted me into the White House to talk to him for 2 minutes, he seemed totally on point to me. So how was I to know?
Exactly.
Well, best of luck to the Fetterman wranglers out there. I hope you can, maybe direct him to, walk in some more interesting shapes on his daily depression quests.
I mean, if you're not going to do anything, I think if you gave him a big noticeable car where everyone could get out of the way, there's
an ice cream truck. An ice cream truck.
Oh, ice cream truck is a good one. I was thinking more in the vein of a
not an ice cream truck. Kids run to that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll probably think these kids are mic'd. I've got to hit them all.
All right, gang. Let's leave it there for today. Sam Seder, thank you so much for joining us today. And everyone, please go check out the Majority Report.
Guys, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, Chris, do you have any announcements or plugs at the end of the show? Nope.
Not
all right.
today.
That does it for us today. Cheers, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.